are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friend! Welcome to bOrgCast 9.2!
Woohoo! Or something.
9.2. Yes. And before we continue on our voyage through Season 4 of Deep Space Nine, a few parish notices. Thanks to everyone who joined us at Destination Star Trek.
Yay! It was awesome to see people, thank you!
It was. Put some faces to names and see some old faces too. And if you want to hear what we thought of it, there's a Space Doc minisode which came out very recently, last Sunday.
Yeah.
Do feel free to listen to that, and you'll hear our opinions. It was generally a good time.
Yes.
As cons go, it could have been better in terms of what they laid on. And it could have been a few less cues. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But there we are. There were some very interesting aspects to it, though, and it was great fun meeting up with people.
It was, yes.
Puri has been bringing more interesting Trek discussion points to the Geek Planet Online forum, with the role of Ferengi women, the latest topic, so do check that out on geekplanetonline.com. And thanks to being unceremoniously evicted from Facebook, because we're a cat, the bOrgCast playlist, I'm afraid, has been frozen. It probably is still accessible, but I won't be able to update it anymore because it was connected to, well, our Facebook account. So I'm reconstructing it at the moment, and hopefully by the time the next bOrgCast comes out, there'll be an updated version. I'll put it on Twitter when it's ready to go, the new one.
Cool. Okay, and will you put it on the tumblers as well?
I guess I probably will put something on the tumblers and all, yes.
Cool.
Righty, let's get stuck into the visitor, shall we?
A freak accident freezes Cisco in time.
No! Don't leave me!
Now his son begins a lifelong obsession.
You're older than I am.
To save his father.
We're trying to rescue you. Let go, Jake.
But to bring him back to reality.
They're being pulled into subspace.
Could take Jake his entire life.
Jake, what's happened to you?
On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, there's not much beyond what's in the trailer.
Yeah,
that I can tell you, because it does almost the entire plot.
Another spoilerific job.
Massively.
Well done.
So, I'm not going to go into huge detail on any of this, because there isn't a lot of point, but I'm going to sort of cover what the trailer doesn't, I suppose.
Oh, it won't take long then.
No. It's what you don't get is the teaser in the trailer, if you see what I mean. So it's raining outside, there's a photo of Ben and Jake and the baseball, and there's an old bloke using a hypo. There's someone at the door, she's a wannabe writer who has seemingly randomly turned up in the rain and wants to talk to him. Why did he stop writing? Because he's only done 2 books, and she wants to find out about him, and he says, well, if you'd come yesterday or last week, I wouldn't have said anything, but today of all days, yeah, it's okay, I'll tell you my story. And says he was 18 when his father died. And you see the accident in the trailer, and then you end the teaser.
Yes. So, shall we play a bit of fingering the bit parts?
Yes.
Although to be called them bit parts seems a bit strange because they feature quite heavily in the episode.
Well,
obviously.
Yeah. I mean, Tony Todd.
Yep.
Is usually Kern.
That's right. Hey, excellent stuff.
So it's one of those characters that, for me anyway, I wouldn't put it down to be a bit part because it's recurring. Mm-hmm. Bit part, in my mind anyway, is that Romulan over there who maybe doesn't even get a line or a name and never appears in another episode. That's my definition of a bit part. Kern is a recurring character.
Yeah. And quite a bit of aged makeup for most of the episode, but pretty effective, I thought.
It's good-looking makeup in the main. And not all of the aged makeup is good, but his is.
Yeah. Of course, he also played Candyman, most famously, I think, in horror movies, but he's in pretty much all the TV. Interesting, he'd suffered a bereavement a few months earlier to recording this, with the aunt who raised him dying, and stated this show helped him out of his shell, which is rather sweet. Then you've got Melanie. Has she ever mentioned her name?
Yes, but
right.
What's weird is he says something like, oh, it's good that you've come, Melanie, or something, but she never told him her name.
Spooky.
Well, you've got a passage of time, because you've got dark and then light, so you can assume it was during something off screen.
Yeah. She's played by Rachel Robinson.
Is that a relation of Andrew Robinson?
Indeed, his daughter.
Uh-huh.
She will also audition a bit later on for somebody called Esri.
Uh-huh.
She's now a singer-songwriter. So I shall have to dig out some of her music for that, I guess.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 1. Night blooming jasmine, nitrous oxide. Where's the baby gonna hide from the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? Why, my native sorrow, my eucalyptus grove.
She's also been in ER, or as I like to call it.
Yeah.
And, of course, the character returns in several spin-off novels because, well, of course.
Yeah, everybody does.
And it's worth mentioning that the whole concept of this story is based on a real-life visit of a high school student who turned up to interview J.D. Salinger, the author of Catcher in the Rye.
Wasn't J.D. Salinger a recluse, or have I got
Pretty
that
much,
wrong?
yes. And the idea is that Jake, at this point in his life, is a recluse as well. So it's a very strange beginning to an episode of Trek, but it's certainly intriguing. You can't claim it's boring at this stage.
No, it's just odd.
Yep.
So, basically, you have the whole thing of there was this accident, and Ben, it keeps appearing, and he's trapped in subspace, and he keeps appearing to Jake, and they're trying to rescue him. There's lots of technobabble and shit I'm not going to bother with. But what I am going to bother with is what you don't get so much in the teaser is in the interim period, at one point Jake does seem to let go when he has to leave the station. And in this universe you find out that the Klingons are like the big threat. The Dominion have disappeared into the background.
Yeah, they never seem to have emerged again. It's all
No,
very
they're
quiet.
very much in the background. And Deep Space Nine gets taken over by the Klingons, and you also find that there's a very firm, something like a mutual defence treaty between Bajor and Cardassia against the Klingons. So that's going on. You have Nog in Starfleet, eventually ends up as a captain. And Jake publishes books. He also gets married. But what happens is, that having sort of had a life, he goes to live with Nia, his granddad, and he marries a Bajoran woman, and he seems to be rebuilding his life. And Ben, when he appears, is pleased to see, you're published and you have a wife, and what about the grandchildren, or whatever. And then Jake sort of is really upset that he didn't try looking for his dad, and so he throws everything away, re-enrolls in school, and throws his whole life away trying to fix things with his dad.
Yes, he does an advanced degree in technobabble, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he ends up on the Defiant, which they dig out of mothballs, and you get
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, then you get shit aging makeup for Bashir and Dax.
That isn't so good, you're right. And also, it has to be said, Alexander Siddig does not play a very realistic old guy. This is the second time he's done it.
Oh, he's on a par with...
Yeah, we've said that before, and yeah.
And they've got uniforms very similar to what they had on the Fugly Bollock.
Yeah, this is right. They are the same uniforms and the comm badges from...
Yeah, so it tells you that this is bollocks, doesn't it?
All good things.
Because it tells you this isn't how it's going to be.
Yes, exactly. Well, not only that, even earlier, of course, when you have Nog when he's a commander and he's wearing Starfleet uniform as a la Next Generation, well, I mean, that's going to change fairly soon.
Yeah,
so.
but as in
this
watching
is definitely
this first time,
a parallel universe.
Yeah, but watching this first time around, you wouldn't know about the other uniform change.
No, you wouldn't have done about that.
But that would have been a massive signpost, wouldn't it? It would have been like a neon sign.
There are lots, and we won't go into it because there's no point. But there are lots of things that aren't going to turn out the way the future turns out.
Yeah,
for Jake.
and so the moment, watching it first time, and the moment it happens, you're like, oh, why can I'm not going to bother. It doesn't have any impact on anything. It's not relevant to the proper universe.
And there's a big reset button at the end. So
Yeah.
normally that's the sort of thing that gets us very cross, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But...
Well, you say but.
surely not. You're not going to slag this amazing episode off.
I'm not going to slag off the acting
Uh-huh.
because Tony Todd is awesome, and so is Avery Brooks. But the actual plot of the episode, it doesn't need to happen. You can completely ignore it. It doesn't need to exist. It's part of a future that
It exists in order to give us those amazing performances. Because
they should have written a better episode to have those performances in, shouldn't they?
Well, you've got to go forward to the future in order to see, Jake. And the whole emotional thing. It's using the future in order to see how Jake and Benjamin's relationship, even though the captain isn't around for a lot of it, still that relationship remains incredibly close to the extent that Jake ends up devoting his entire rest of his life to getting him back.
Yeah, but that's because
the only way of doing that is showing the future.
No, it's because he can't let go because his dad isn't actually dead.
Yeah, but I mean, again, if it wasn't that close a relationship, he would have just got on with things.
No, but we already know they have a close relationship.
Yeah, but this is really, this is a wonderful way of exploring it. It's just
the only thing it might possibly say is that it's actually dysfunctional, which I don't like.
I think it's dysfunctional.
No, because of his obsession with his dad, and he gives up his wife and the potential of having his own children, and he gives up his writing career.
Mm-hmm.
So he's too attached to the generation above when he should be seeking to create a generation below.
Yeah, but again, that's because his dad was taken away from him.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't need to see any of it because that's not real.
But it's I just don't understand you at all. Because this is all about the dramatic performances and finding out more about these characters.
But you don't,
to
because
dismiss it just because
those events don't happen. So how do we find out more?
Because they're the same people ultimately.
Well, no,
we are exploring the same characters.
No, because different things happen to them, and people are shaped by their experiences. So it won't be the same Cisco's, either of them.
But that doesn't matter because we're exploring the characters, for heaven's sake.
But they're not the proper ones, are they?
They are! They are still the same people.
They aren't the Jake we're going to get. It's not the Jake we're going to get ultimately because this bad, massive trauma thing doesn't happen to him. And the only thing it might make a difference to, potentially, is Ben Sisko, because for reasons that make no fucking sense, he remembers, even though he shouldn't because the accident didn't happen, so how's he going to have the memories?
It's curious. Well, he would never have been able to save himself, of course, if he didn't remember. I mean, he remembers because it's not completely... I suppose it is completely rewound to an extent. No. But yeah, somehow he retains those memories, doesn't it? And that's, do you think he has a conversation with Jake about how his life could turn out? I mean, that's a really interesting one that we just don't see, and I don't think it's ever referenced, so...
No, you don't, because that was the other thing as well. I was waiting, because I couldn't remember whether there was a callback to this at any point. Mm-hmm. I was waiting at the end of the episode for a captain's log, or a dinner with the two of them, or something.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
That in my mind would have made this episode worth watching.
I can't believe you're saying this episode is not worth watching. I'm sorry.
It has no impact.
It does, emotional impact.
No, on the characters, it has no impact. I need to see impact. If a parallel universe is going to have any reason to exist, or any of these fake future bollocks, it's got to have an impact in the proper universe, in the here and now. Now, if we'd had a scene where...
In your mind.
But we needed to see impact. So if we saw that there was a captain's log, or there was a conversation or something, where, as you say... Ben shared that with Jake.
Or even said, actually, I don't think it's appropriate to share this with him. But it would have been, it would have been nice just to have had that little code, I think.
Or even if it's just that he's not going to say anything to Jake, but he's going to affect how he is with Jake. He's going to affect his parenting of Jake now that he knows Jake, because he's 18 at this point. Which in our society is an adult, but the Federation equals America, so he hasn't finished growing up yet, apparently. So, is it going to change his parenting of Jake to make sure that actually he does start to break away from his dad and be his own person? We've already seen him decline the Pennington once. You've seen that in their relationship up until now. He can't cope with leaving his dad until his dad's got Cassidy and whatever. Is Ben going to do something now because of what he remembers? If the answer to that, if we had that in the episode, then it would be worth watching, because there would be the parallel future would have impacted on the proper one. But without that impact...
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
So for me, the episode in and of itself has no worth because it has no bearing on the universe. But it is still an enjoyable episode because of the performances. And I think where I would put it in terms of how I feel about it is on a par with quite a bit of season 1. where things happen some things happen in season 1 that do have an impact on later. Yeah? But there's quite a lot of episodes that happen in season 1 that you don't need to watch and could just leave and it wouldn't impact on anything. And that's what this feels like to me. It feels like a standalone episode that is a good episode in terms of it's worth watching, but in terms of the arc plot, which we now have on Deep Space Nine, it has no bearing on the arc plot. And it feels to me out of place, and as you know, I don't like parallel universes.
Right. Okay.
But it's a good episode in the sense of being very well acted. And yes, it does affect me emotionally because of the way it's acted. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying it's not worth watching. I'm not saying it's a bad episode per se. I'm saying it doesn't fit with the art plot and the fact that...
Well, from what I remember, not every episode is going to be art plot this season.
No.
They've not gone full Babylon 5.
No, but there are references made in the background and things, and it's not a parallel bollocky annoy thing. Don't like parallel universes.
Okay.
What did you think?
I just breathtaking. I mean, I wouldn't use the word enjoyable watch because it's quite upsetting. It wasn't so bad this time around, but when I watched it last week, it's like, oh. So yeah, no, just extraordinary performances, extraordinary character stuff. It just feels very different to anything Star Trek's done up to. I guess the closest perhaps is the Inner Light. It's got that similar sort of feel. I mean, you're going to dispense the Inner Light as well, because, of course, none of that happened either.
No, but you see the impact because he plays the flute and he remembers. Uh-huh. There's an impact there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't annoy me in the same way, because it has impact. Uh-huh. If this had impact...
Well, it certainly does on me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I think, in a way, what pisses me off most, daft as it sounds, is the bloody shit-aged acting and the crappy uniforms that for me is just like a fucking siren going off going, it's not real, and it just totally takes me out of it. Any emotional connection I've had to the episode up until that point goes.
So you need to realise, darling, it's not reality.
Doesn't have that effect on me. I like the fact actually that they have those particular uniforms because it's, I mean, obviously the reason they did it was for cost, but it does, sort of fit a potential future, therefore. The fact that they won't end up in that direction is neither here nor there. But while we're on fashion... Remember how annoyed I got when Kira's uniform changed into a one-piece from a two-piece? Wow, it changes even more in this. Don't know if you noticed.
No.
She loses the shoulder pads. It's a bit wide around the neck, darker in colour, and not that you see it in this particular story, but she's got high heels now.
Right.
They're practical, and that's what women wear in space, apparently.
I can't comment on the rest of the uniform, but I have a feeling, and you can't call this a spoiler, but I have a feeling in season 7 she gets heels.
No, she's got heels in this.
Yeah, but this is the wrong future, isn't it? So you can't read anything into it.
Oh, no, like next, and the next episode as well, she's got this uniform.
Oh.
Yeah. So she isn't wearing this to show that she's in the future, because she wears it at Sisko's memorial, and she also wears it in Hippopotamus Sofa as well.
Oh.
Yeah. And, uniform, they really need to look up the meaning of uniform in the dictionary, because nobody else wears this. Bizarre. No. And some fans started a campaign for her to return to her older uniform, complaining the showmakers were turning her into a Baywatch babe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I go quite that far, but certainly it's stupid that she's not wearing a uniform.
Yeah.
Just wear what you like day.
Yeah. I mean, you could call it a dress code if it was a colour scheme and certain things were and weren't allowed, but that's not a uniform.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. I love the scene with Jake looking out of the upper pylon. Fantastic effect. When Kira comes up to him and says, yeah, he can stay for a bit longer. It made a change for Sisko to appear long enough for others to see him. This whole thing could have been like, it was just Jake that saw him, which would have been slightly annoying. It's one of those things, we're not going to believe you, you're mad sort of things. But beyond the first appearance, when it's just Jake, after that, then other people see him, and they actually get him in the med bay and try and keep him there. That's kind of cool. Lovely to see Nog in full uniform, even if it is Next Generation one, which is curious. We can do a Who Are You on Karina.
Come on, tell me who are you? 'Cause I really wanna know.
She's played by a Galen Gorg, which is a heck of a name.
Yeah, that sounds like an alien.
Yeah, who later had a role... It sounds like something from Fraggle Rock to me, but anyway. She later had a role in Voyager and is best known for playing Nancy in Twin Peaks. She was also in Hercules, Xena. She played Helen of Troy in that.
Yeah.
Stargate Icky-1, 18, Fresh Prince of Bel-End, Lost, and most recently Parks and Rec. And movie-wise, she was in RoboCop 2, but we won't hold that against her. She was also in a ZZ Top video. Whoa! Couldn't find out which one, sadly. I love the fact that it's become Morn's bar in the future. Yeah. Fantastic.
And that he drinks away all his profits.
Yeah. They had wanted O'Brien in the future segments on the Defiant. Cole Meany wasn't available. In actual fact, this story had to be shot after Hippocratic Oath in order for Cole Meany to appear in that story. So he was obviously doing a movie or something. As well as the fantastic acting, the music in this is really good as well. Lovely melancholic music.
I like the directing. Well. I like the way it's
Direction's
shot.
excellent as well, you're right. Yep. All the rain effects, by the way, were very messy and very expensive.
Who did direct this?
Now, it was going to be René Auberjonois, but because they switched the episodes, he ended up doing Hippocratic Oath. So instead, give me a second, I'll find out who directed this one, hopefully. Directed by David Livingston, old hand.
Duckman.
Yes, Duckman. Right, so you were ultimately not so satisfied with it.
It's... what's the phrase? Cure its egg, from my point of view. Because it is well acted, well directed, and it is moving and emotional. It's just I don't like parallel universes and it has no bearing on anything.
Right. Whereas I adore this fantastic story. It just, as I say, feels so different from any other Trek.
Well, yeah, because
really wonderful thing to try.
Well, they also, if you compare it to Next Gen, didn't they have this thing with Roddenberry who said people don't grieve anymore and all that bollocks? And we had Wooden Boy.
Yes, quite. Well, this is just all
grief,
isn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it did remind me of an Enterprise episode.
Okay.
The one with the guy who, in his case, it's his son, not his dad. And he spent all his life trying to bring his son back.
So that's what we thought. But what did other people think? Well, let's kick off with Doreen, shall we? Hello, the visitor. Has an interesting start, especially for a Deep Space Nine episode. This reminds me of the Babylon 4 storyline from the other franchise I think most of us know and love. I like this episode as it didn't feel too much like the usual reset button at the end. It was extremely philosophical. Superficially, it was a very touching ending, if you're able to overlook Jake's suicide euthanasia, as that brings up some extremely complex issues. But then again, as he says, this is to enable him to have life over again. So, is it suicide? Curious, that one, isn't it? It's more of a sacrifice, isn't it?
Well, but is it even that, if he's...
Yeah, in a way, no, because then he's not even a sacrifice, yes. I suppose he's taking a bit of a risk.
Yeah, he could be wrong.
Yes, bad news, wouldn't it?
But he
then
isn't...
it possibly would be suicide, I don't know. But anyway.
But he is... It's not the same as if he was saying at the age of 27 or something. He is old anyway.
Yes, that's true as well.
So I guess it's more like assisted dying and choosing to end your life when you're old. But we don't actually know how old he is.
But in order to hopefully live again.
Yeah, which is not quite the same. It doesn't have a parallel because it's a parallel bloody universe and broken and wrong.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't like them, you know, don't you?
Yes, I do know that. We've also heard from Wayne Peters.
He says, hello, Orgs. The Twitter feedback thing was fun and convenient, but the disjointed train of thought nature of it felt like it didn't really make for very good audio when read out, so I thought I would from now on try and make an effort to write something coherent instead. This also gives me the opportunity to say how fantastic it was to meet yourselves, Drew and Tracy, Andy and Leggett Brian at the others at Destination Europe. I must apologise for running up and shouting, hello friends, without first introducing myself, forgetting of course that you would have no idea who I was. Glad we sorted that one out.
It was one of 3 people I was trying to... Yeah, it's like, okay.
I was, it has to be said, a little disappointed with the convention itself, but I still went home to Cardiff with a warm fuzzy feeling and a big grin on my face purely because of the company. I hope we can do it again one day. Yeah, would be good to.
Yes, it's the bOrgCast convention I've got to organise.
Ah, okay.
BorgCon.
We're going to turn up with all our props and sort of deliberately age them and make them look a bit shit, and then like draw a crap picture and put it in a frame and then try and sell it for £1,000.
Yes, possibly.
So then, The Visitor. I absolutely love this episode. Oh, he's with you then. Mm-hmm. Last week's was great fun and very impressive, but this one blew me away. It's Deep Space Nine's Inner Light, really. Yeah. The main difference being that unlike Picard, who lived an entire lifetime and then went straight back to the centre seat, Sisko experiences glimpses of Jake's life in a period of moments. I was initially disinterested. After the major story arc events of Way of the Warrior, I really didn't want to drop a gear back to a one-shot, and I also struggle with episodes that ask us to feel sad that one of the main characters has been killed when you know full well that he's going to be alright in the end. Yeah, that's two of my main problems with it right there. Mm-hmm. However, as it got going, I found myself utterly engaged by Cyril Lofton and Tony Todd, who brought their A-game to this one. Then adding on top of that the speculative political element of the Klingons taking over DS9 and Bajoran space, Captain Nog and everything else, it was fascinating. I did wonder initially why they put Tony Todd in old makeup instead of hiring an old actor, but that obviously became apparent when we saw him at different stages in his life. Mm-hmm. And talking of which, the ageing makeup was absolutely superb. So to sum up, this was a blinding piece of television drama, possibly my favourite episode of DS9 to date, and not a phaser in sight.
I don't think there is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sampo's been in touch. On paper, this sounds like an episode I would not enjoy. It's basically an alternative universe story, with the regular cast being in a very limited role. However, this episode was really good. It was well written and acted and very emotional. It got feelings out of me that Star Trek rarely does. Roddenberry is clearly long dead and buried at this point, because the story features people having to deal with issues instead of just hand-waving them away because everyone is perfect in the future. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Speaking of the future, skirting around spoilers, it seems that in the version seen in this episode, things never escalated with the Dominion. Could it be because after giving the wormhole to the Klingons, there were no longer any scientific surveys conducted by the Federation? Possibly. Apart from the personal tragedy of Jake Sisko, the future scene in this episode might actually be better than the canon one. Basically, everything in this episode works. If I started listing the things I liked, I would just summarise the entire episode. So I'll just conclude by saying this was fantastic all round. Yay, excellent. Thank you.
We've heard from Cheeky Monkey Jane, who says, "Dearest Orgs, I hope you all enjoyed the convention. Looked great from the photos."
It was fun.
Okay, typing this with a lump in my throat. Sublime episode which moved me in the same way that Inner Light does. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It feels as if somebody hit the turbo button on DS9 from Season 4, something the writers managed to do on Enterprise Season 4 as well. No.
Actually, we've Season 3 was good, but Season 4 we felt went row off the boil, but there we are.
We did. But it wasn't to be. Also, a good excuse to play ABBA The Visitors, surely.
I promised nothing in terms of the end, though.
No, because there's other things like rewind.
Oh, no, we're not having that. That's awful. Awful, awful song. Okay.
Well, then you have to think of something that you like better then, don't you?
Uh-huh. Thank you, Mr. Cheeky Monkey.
Thank you.
Did Purry enjoy this one? Let's find out.
Hello, Args. Purry here to talk about The Visitor. First, I hope you both had a really good time at Destination Star Trek. Indeed, I think everyone did. I think there was a little bOrgCast meet-up there, and I'd have loved to have been there. Hope everyone had fun. Yes, The Visitor. Now, when I first saw this, I was faintly surprised. Bear in mind, Babylon 5 had been running at this point. We were used to, after a big start, to carry on straight into the plot, and instead we get this episode which could have appeared in Season 3. In fact, with a few MacGuffins, could have appeared anywhere. But I think that's actually an important sort of statement of intent for Deep Space Nine, in that they won't be tied to an arc. I think they're beginning to work something out, but they're still going to do these individual episodes. And actually, I love Babylon 5, and anyone who knows me knows I love Babylon 5, but it was one of the things that I liked because it made it a little bit different. It meant that Deep Space Nine wasn't just copying the big new shiny. So, on to the episode, and again, when I first saw this, it wasn't the sort of thing that must have been about 15, 16-year-old me would have liked, except he did. I think I was slightly transfixed with it at the time. Watching it now as a fully grown adult, I've got to say I was just about moved to tears in this one. That might have been the fact that I was watching it in a park in Cardiff, but it might also be that it's actually a very good emotional story. Now, it's actually, the only thing I'd say is a shame is that Sir Lofton, who, bear in mind, I wasn't too impressed with the acting chops in Emissary, didn't get more to do in this. He is sadly kind of upstaged by Tony Todd, playing the aged Jake Sisko, but the idea of us being many years in the future, and an old Jake telling a story of when he lost his dad to a random visitor is really quite touching. It's this is almost a sort of parallel universe that we can use as a later comparison, although not really. This goes much further. The series only goes about 7 years on. This is much further into the future, but this is almost a world without a Sisko. And indeed, we see things like Deep Space Nine is given over to the Klingons. The Dominion apparently never bothered invading. Whether it's because they've got a whole load of really angry Klingons sitting at the wormhole, we don't know. But it is something that's interesting to look back at this episode when you've watched the whole series and think how things might have been different had Sisko died. The main part is actually, I think, the bits that got me were Sisko's appearances and his interactions with his son. Sort of, effectively, Sisko got to see Jake grow up and grow old, and I thought that was rather lovely. I think Avery Brooks really sells it. Tony Todd is fantastic as the older Jake Sisko, and it's just an interesting story. It uses time travel, and yes, it does use a big reset button at the end, but it works for the episode. And if you consider the episode, Sisko actually, from what I can pick up from this, Sisko remembers everything he saw. Sisko's route was basically linear through this, because he remembered to jump out the way at the last minute. So, in that respect, Sisko has effectively seen Jake grow up and become a writer, which is rather lovely. And just in general, this one was rather, touching stuff. It shows that they can do the deep emotional stories when they want to, and indeed it's always nice them playing off the Jake and Benjamin sort of angle, the father-son angle. So yeah, I can't really say many things aside from it was lovely. I did like the use of the All Good Things uniforms again. I'm glad they hauled those out of the costume cupboard. Captain Nog's fantastic. It's just nice to see him get the Nog. And indeed, actually, one of the other things that Aaron Eisenberg did in one of the earlier scenes when he's telling Jake he's off to the academy and he won't be there to help him, you really get this impression of someone who wants to help his friend but has no idea how. I thought, fairly wordlessly and with a few awkward phrases, that was sold very well to us. And finally, we do have, I quite liked Dax and Bashir sort of sniping at each other on the bridge of the Defiant. The whole thing of, we've not used a 2D panel in ages and that sort of thing. Definitely, it felt like at least two old friends. So there were some really nice bits of acting there. But overall, just when you want to do a touching emotional story, this has it in spades, and I thought it was a really, really good episode. So I'll be back shortly to talk about the next episode, whose title currently eludes me, but I'll remember it before I record the next one. So until then, bye for now.
Cool, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Interesting, different reason for the Dominion not invading.
Yeah.
Scary Klingons, let's leave them alone.
Yeah. But then, I wonder whether partly it's kind of both, because it's the Federation who think they have the moral right to go and explore other universes for science, a bit like Japan killing whales. And the Klingons, that's not how they think. So the Dominion are like, well, that's fine. It's not necessarily that they're angry, it's just it's a different mindset in control.
Although, knowing the Klingons, I'm surprised they didn't go hurtling through the wormhole as soon as they got the opportunity to have a big battle, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, anyway.
I don't know.
Bizarre,
yeah. One of the things that this made me think, when you talk about how you get to see how the universe would have been different if Sisko had died, it made me think the whole thing about the prophets is, Kira says it, it wasn't just they was the emissary to the prophets. Well, shouldn't all Bajoran religion or something have collapsed because their emissary's dead?
Well, they do make reference to the fact that they see it as a sign from the prophets that they shouldn't be involved in the Federation. So it's changed the narrative a bit. in terms of their religious worldview, but it hasn't altered their faith in the prophets. They kind of see it as a sign from the prophets, basically.
Okay.
That, exploring being in the Federation is actually a dead end. So that's what this means. So,
I think one of the things that this does impact on the main universe, possibly, depending on how you thought of things, is that it could have been easy watching this to think that because Sisko is the emissary to the prophets, he's invulnerable. Mm-hmm. Because the prophets are going to always keep him alive. And the fact that we've seen an alternative universe where actually he dies, it kind of helps you to think that actually he could die. Does that make sense? That you can't just think, oh, Sisko's
well,
not going
except he doesn't die, does he? So...
So maybe it doesn't work either.
No.
Okay, fair enough. You've still got then an invulnerable captain.
Pretty much.
Which takes some of the jeopardy away, though, doesn't it? When you're watching things.
Mm-hmm.
He likes the uniforms, whereas I don't. I tell you one of the reasons, though, that I don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
They make me think of Grandad trousers.
Yeah, no, there is. Do you know
something
what I mean? Slightly unfortunate about them, but yes, it's mainly I think because most of the regulars we see in them are aged because it's supposed to be in the future.
No, but the blue stops and the black starts at Grandad trouser height.
Oh right, I got you. Yes, it's like they've got their trousers up too high. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like when you combine that with old people.
Yeah,
it's like the Grandad uniforms.
Yeah. And Dax's hair is definitely granny hair, isn't it? As well.
Oh yeah, bad granny hair and Grandad uniforms.
Grandad, you're lovely.
God, you're a real source for excellent tunes tonight, aren't you? I don't think. Blimey.
Oh, that's nothing compared to what I've come up with for the next one.
Oh, I can't wait. Right, Drew and Tracy. Oh, by the way, with their feedback, they did say that they've got a bit of a crackle on the microphone, so don't worry, it's not your playback equipment that's playing up.
So you've just watched the next Deep Space Nine episode.
The Visitor.
Is that what it's called? I was going to say, I don't know what this is called, but let me just tell you one thing. I ain't never watching that again. I blubbed my way through this episode. I can't believe that I did.
Yeah, I must admit there were tears in my eyes at the end of it as well.
I joked at the beginning when I knew that something was going to happen to Ben, and it was like obviously that he was going to die. And I said to you, "Don't make me watch an episode where Ben dies." And we was a bit jokey, and then it just hit, and oh my god, it was just. Oh, it was just horrendous. I just felt every emotion through this episode. Like, Jake losing his dad, then getting him again, and then losing him again, and then having to go through that emotion, several times for his life. And then at the end, Sisko losing his son. I just, oh no, my God, just don't even go there.
Yep. And it's a famously weepy one. I do remember because I wanted to see what you'd be like when I watched it. I do remember watching it original time round, and yeah, it's famously the weepy episode of Star Trek. Yeah, the Sisko, Jake, young Jake. I can't remember the guy's name who plays him, but he's such a good actor, isn't he? He's really.
When Ben first died, when he died the second time when he was on the bed, oh my God, just his emotions were just brilliant. I can't knock this episode.
No, and older Jake, what's his name? Toby?
Toby something. But
Todd?
Toby
Todd.
Yeah.
He, again, very good, very good.
Yeah. They were it was all heartfelt in this. Mm-hmm. And Sisko, I can't knock it.
No, it's a lovely episode.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's one you don't want to watch too often.
I'm never watching this again. I can't, because it would just kill me how much I just bloody sobbed through this episode.
It's like Marley and me all over again.
Yeah, but it's just me.
It's great though, isn't it? It's wonderful. I think.
I feel stupid, but
you don't have to feel stupid.
It did make me laugh when they brought back the old crew.
Yes, it's always a bit silly.
Yeah, and I just wondered where O'Brien and Kira was.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that they aged Nog, but he's obviously still a little kid because the voice hadn't changed. But I really liked this episode for probably all the wrong reasons, because it was just too emotional. But it was lovely.
Definitely. Absolutely brilliant episode.
But please don't make me watch it again.
We won't do, don't worry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So there we go. Totes emosh.
Yes, a bit weepy.
Well, if anything's going to make you weep, this episode will do it, definitely.
Didn't make me weep.
No, well, for most people.
Sorry. Am I all cold-hearted and callous and horrible?
Well, you're slightly strange, I think. It's the fact that you'll let the fact that it's a parallel universe get in the way of your enjoyment of this is kind of curious.
No, I don't. It's the fact that it's a parallel universe takes me out of it once I see them fucking Grandad uniforms.
Yeah, it affects your enjoyment, is what I say.
But you say let it as though I have a choice. It just did. If I could choose for it not to, it wouldn't.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Sorry to have made you blubs. Well, it's not us making you blub. It's Star Trek making you blub. No bad thing. And we've had feedback from Argyle Smurf.
Hello there, everybody. It's my horrible voice again. It's Damien 6, Return of the Smurf, with not an Ewok in sight. Yeah, sorry about that. Life sort of took over for a while there. These new 42-hour contracts are a bitch. It's funny, I just found my my recording for the last thing, and it says, I'll speak to you in a fortnight, and it was recorded on July the 2nd. I think I've dropped the ball there a bit, haven't I? Oh well, I'm back now, and what a time to be back, because The Visitor, I could have sworn this came way later in the order, but yeah, this is good. This is something else. There aren't many things that can leave a guy like me crying like a little girl, but this one does it. This one fucks me up one wall and back down the other one. This is something else. And that's even with quite a few little niggles. Because it's not a perfect episode by any stretch. It's really, really good, but it's not perfect. Anyway, before we get started, what the fuck is that statue? Right at the very beginning of the episode, it pans down from the rainy window over a statue of some kind and to a picture of Ben and Jake. And to me, it looks like a statue of two men holding aloft an enormous flaccid penis. I'm sure it's something tribal, I'm being incredibly insensitive, but that's what it looked like to me. And then it's just about that moment when the hand reached for the baseball, I went, whoa, it's this one. Okay. And that had me pause, because quite often, when it's an episode I know really well, like one I've been looking forward to, I've been left a bit flat by it, because I remember it. That happened a lot. That happens a lot with Babylon 5. The ones I really enjoy are the ones that I don't remember. And that's the case with this too. The ones I really enjoy are the ones I don't remember. And the ones I do remember, I've found so far, I've actually been a bit cold with, just because I remember what's going on. But in this case, that is not the case, which I'm very, very, very happy about, because like I say, I love this. And, anyway, Tony Todd, because Tony Todd, that's a guest star to pull in, and he's spot on, as far as I'm concerned. Apart from the fact that, you know, for reasons beyond understanding, Jake Sisko's voice drops 4 octaves when he becomes a 25-year-old instead of an 18-year-old. But, apart from that, he's sitting at home on his own, playing with his balls. Baseball, no. When he gets a knock at a door from what would probably be best described as a trespassing invasive stalker, and a demanding bitch to boot. She annoys the fuck out of me. It's like she gets him to tell the story by going, tell me, please. After being really, basically just walking into his house. I know he's invited her, but that's just the decent thing to do. And she annoys me. And then he starts telling the story, and then, you know, when my dad died at age 18, roll teaser. That's how you roll credits. That's how you do a teaser. That's a teaser and a half, that is. And then we come back to it, and yeah, my dad died at this age. And then she interrupts him when he's about 20 seconds into the story. If that were me, I know I'm not a particularly nice person, but I would have just been, you know what, fuck off, I'll find someone else to tell this to. Go on you go. It's a good thing he'd got his timetable sorted out, because otherwise, you know, if he'd had another week, he'd have found someone else to tell the story to. Well, I would have anyway. Anyway, we go back in time to the engineering sequence. Jesus, I haven't got my pacing right for this feedback at all. We go back in time to the sequence, to the actual death sequence, where, you know, the ship gets hit by some flagellum, and it causes the what's-its to fail the doohickey, and, you know, and the warp core ejection system is offline, obviously. I mean, you know, it kind of always is, isn't it? I don't think they've ever installed a warp core ejection system. I reckon there's just a big red light that comes and says, oh, it's offline now. Sorry. I know you want it to, but that's very inconvenient for everything except the plot. And then Sisko desperately demands the tool that he really needs, which appears to be the handlebars from a kid's scooter, which he can plug into the what's-it and make the flagellum stop doohickying. And then gets zapped somewhere. Bit questionable on the somewhere, but there it is. Quick question about where the bit in the middle, this is what happened after he went, it all broke down, and Bajor entered a mutual defense pact with Cardassia. Ignoring for a moment the unlikelihood of that based on their histories. What exactly is in that for Cardassia? I mean, a mutual defense pact tends to be two roughly equal powers who, can have each other's back. If Cardassia gets attacked by something, the Bajorans ain't gonna fucking help, are they? I mean, Jesus. I don't understand why that would happen. Anyway. I've fucked this timing right up, so I'm going to skip right to the end. And the one thing that derails the final conclusion for me is the bungee cord technobabble, which is, if you'll forgive the pun, somewhat a stretch. And, that seems extremely unlikely, even with magic science, that he can get Patwankied back to what he was meant to be. But he gets the timing right to do his shot of death, to know exactly when he's going to arrive, even though he's never had any kind of foresight before as to when he was going to arrive. And he knows he has enough time with him to do the whole, look at the dedication in the book and this and that and the other. That's a risk, isn't it? If he's got his timing out by 2 minutes, Ben's gone, and the entire plan's fallen apart. Surely, as disgusting as it would be, and probably not a 7 PM on a Saturday kind of thing, would you not just pull a knife or a gun or something? I mean, that would get it done. Anyway, like I say, timing is fucked up. I absolutely love this episode. I'm rather hoping the next one can live up to it, but it seems unlikely. And, I'll probably feed back to that too, but, the way I've been going at the minute, who fucking knows? Have a good one. I'm sorry I've been gone, and I have been listening along whenever I've been able to get time, but I've always caught up with you, and I love what you do, and you're awesome. Speak to you in a bit. Cheerio.
Cheerio, bye.
Cheerio, bye.
Thank you.
Right. Various comments. The statue is the Baitor Prize. So that means it's Auntie Nippy, and that's why it's got a phallus.
Yeah, that's his literary award that you see him celebrating with Nog and his wife later on. But yes, I think that's what. I suppose they didn't make it massively obvious, but that's what that's supposed to be.
But yeah, if it's what the fuck did Baitor do? A literary prize.
I don't know. She's come on in life, hasn't she?
But it does kind of make sense that there'd be two people and a big penis if it's Auntie Nippy, doesn't it? Really. I like the idea that they never bloody installed the warp core rejection system.
Yeah, no, this is a running thing. You think it would just be like a manual hatch.
You think you would be or a manual option. If there's a
pull red lever to eject warp core, surely is much better than having a complicated software system that can so easily go wrong and does so often.
Yeah, so the software system initially with a manual override would make sense, but oh no, we can't do it because that's crap. You're right that the tool is a shit tool. The one that
I quite like it. It's quite cool.
No, it looks like something from the fucking Crystal Maze.
Does it?
He has to put in the big hole and turn it like a physical game or something.
I like the fact it goes into the TARDIS console as well. That's kind of cool.
Okay, fine.
It's got to be something manual in order to, because all the software is buggered up. So that makes complete sense.
But yeah, even so. And the Bajorans and Cardassians, you've got to remember Cardassians in shreds having been attacked by the Klingons.
Yes.
So it is actually
so the Bajorans can actually be some help to them at this stage.
Yeah, in a way that if the Klingons, if the stuff in the way of the Warrior hadn't happened, you would be right. But you've got to remember they're in tatters. Their central command's gone. They haven't got the Obsidian Order anymore because of Dyer's cast. So, they're really in disarray, and it is actually a partnership of equals.
Thank you, folks. Let's move on then to Hippopotamus Oath.
Yes.
They were designed for one purpose.
We will kill you first. You are prisoners of the Jem'Hadar.
Engineered for one intent.
The killers. That's all they know how to do. That's all they want to do.
Enslaved as deadly mercenaries.
You're trying to leave the Dominion?
Now, the only way to escape them.
This is our one chance to get out of here.
It's also our one chance to break their addiction.
Maybe to join them.
Chief, I'm not going.
Next time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
A bone hippopotamus was standing one day on the banks of the cool Shalimar. He gazed at the bottom as it peacefully lay by the light of the evening star.
So yes, the Hippopotamus song, splendid.
Yes.
Hippocratic Oath. I mean, that trailer wasn't bad.
Certainly a lot better than the last bloody trailer.
Well, indeed, yes. Worf is spying on a Markalian smuggler in Quarks, who's called Regana Tosh, which sounds like a curry to me, but there you are.
It does, doesn't it?
Of course, the Markalians date back to Emissary, one of them being prawned by Odo in the pilot, and they're basically our regular
Primos!
Kira comes over and Worf grumbles about Odo not doing his job properly. So that's the B-plot set up then.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bashir and O'Brien are heading back from the Gamma Quadrant, riskily, in a runabout, with the Chief complaining about Keiko complaining. He's built a mini workshop in their bedroom, which has understandably gone down badly. How dumb can you be? Really? They kind of deserve each other, those two, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean, she fucked off and left him.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, that's not a good reaction, is it?
Well, I don't use it when she's visiting. Oh, of course not. She says I'm trying to live like a bachelor again. That I'm expressing a subconscious desire to push her out of our quarters.
Now, that is ridiculous.
That's what I said.
I mean, if anything, by spending your free time in the bedroom, a place you intimately associate with Keiko, you are actually expressing a desire to be closer to her during her absence. It's quite touching, really.
Exactly. See, you understand. Now, why can't she see that? Why can't she be more like...
More like...
Well, a man. More like a man.
So... you wish... Keiko was a man?
I wish I was on this trip with someone else. That's what I wish.
It's a great comic scene, though, isn't it, with him and Bashir?
Yeah, why can't she be more like...
a man.
A man? Well, he was going to say you, wasn't he?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They pick up the signal from a damaged water core and track it down to a planet, but the runabout is hit by a plasma field and drained of energy, causing them to make an emergency landing. Upon leaving their ship, they're surrounded by decloaking Jemadar. It's squeaky bum time. They are interrogated by Garanagar, and here's time to play fingering the bit parts again, although we'd be doing this a lot, but there's no chance you recognising these guys under all that makeup, it has to be said.
Well, you say that, but I think I recognised one of them.
Yes.
But I don't know where from.
So that's useful then.
That's helpful, isn't it?
Yay.
That's really... Yeah, I recognise his voice.
So the one we see the most, the first, is called Garanagar, and he's played by Scott MacDonald.
Don't know. He's not the one I knew.
Who we last saw as Tosk.
Oh!
Under not too different makeup, it has to be said.
Fair enough.
Renee, who directed this episode, requested the actor on the basis of his previous performance.
Oh, fair enough.
It's very different, though. He's clearly got range, this guy. He's far more threatening character here.
Yep.
They also auditioned somebody called Robert Foxworth for the role, who will go on to play somebody called Admiral Layton.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but he was so good they decided to use him later for a rather bigger role. Worf has taken things to Sisko's office, with Odo defending his methods. Captain tells Worf his chief of security gets results, and to remember the Klingon is no longer in charge of security. Worf promises not to pursue things as part of his job, but he clearly has a new hobby.
Yeah.
In the same design of security cell Sisko and Quark were held in during Season 2's Jemadar, which is a nice little detail.
And the ledge was used.
Yeah, they use that cave set an awful lot.
Yes.
Bashir observes their captors seem jumpy. The Doctor is taken to a makeshift lab and told about the Jemadar's addiction to Ketracel White. Garanagar tells him they try to escape slavery by the Vorta and the Dominion by coming to this planet. As it is, they're running out of White and need him to free them of their addiction, as Garanagar has mysteriously been himself, seemingly by the planet. He shows them his suffering troops. Bashir offers to help with O'Brien's assistance, but they only have 5 days of White left, not that the rest of the Jemadar know this. We meet his second, Araktaral. I know, it's very Galaxy Quest, these names, aren't they? Played by Stephen Davis, who was the Bolian tactical officer aboard the Saratoga in Emissary. You know, the one who dragged Sisko away when Jennifer died.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. There's a conference in the wardroom about the state of play with the Klingons, which is rather cool, who are looking forward to their next victory, Garon having declared the botched invasion of Cardassia a success.
I love that idea.
I win! Bye! Politics doesn't change, does it?
No.
If you're losing the argument, just redefine the parameters.
Yeah.
They have a PowerPoint with a Klingon ship deployments up on it, which is kind of cool. After the meeting, Worf updates Odo with his latest intelligence on Quark, and to give him his due, the shapeshifter thanks his informant, but makes it clear it's his job to take care of things. O'Brien is pretending to make a scanner, but is actually putting together a bomb thing to escape. Bashir manages to troll the chief about making a fine officer someday.
I love that.
Unfortunately, Araktaral picks up the bomb thing and it zaps another Jem'Hadar in the leg, somewhat cocking up their escape attempt. The victim is Mizo Clan, these names, who's played by Jeremy Roberts, who played Dimitri Valtain, the science officer aboard the Excelsior in Star Trek 6.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember
Voyager's flashback.
That's a proper bit part.
Well, we get more of a part in the Voyager episode, it has to be said, but it's been a long while since we've seen that. Yeah, I rewatched it not so long ago, it's not great. He was also in Xena and Buffy. Another Jem'Hadar points out they should kill their wounded comrade. This is Timo Zuma. Of course it is. Who's played by... Now, this is a name you should recognise. Marshall Teague.
He was a Narn.
That's right. He was everything about it. He was a Narn. He was...
no, but wasn't he the Narn one?
Yeah, the one
who draws the...
Becomes the bodyguard for...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Shakar, yeah. But he also plays... I don't think he plays Centauri, but he plays most of the other races as well.
He plays a Drazi, doesn't he?
Yes, he does quite often, yeah.
Yeah. But no, he's the one... There's that scene, isn't there, where he draws the blade and it has to...
Yep.
Yeah, him. Blade Draw Narn Man. I'm sure that's not what he's called. I'm sure he has an actual name.
He did, didn't he?
And he's not called Blade Draw Narn Man.
No. There'll be people screaming at the
there
podcast
will
now.
be.
JJ for starters.
Blade Draw Narn Man. No, he's not Blade Draw.
Because he's the one who kind of replaces Jakar at the end, doesn't he?
Yes.
Sorry.
Blade Draw Narn Man.
He's also in the A-Team and Quantum Leap, and clearly doesn't mind wearing an awful lot of makeup. Worf continues to pry, breaking into Quarks on the upper level and spying on the Ferengi. Regan Atosh enters with a bag, presumably containing the crystals he's smuggling. Worf doesn't try and arrest anyone, thankfully, at this point, but goes to Odo to complain again, getting an earful for interfering in the process. Quite right, too. Bashir discovers Garanagar's body is producing its own Ketracel white supply, but he can't tell from where. I'm guessing it's from his spleen. There's a reference to the child from The Abandoned. Garanagar has a touching reflection on the nature of his gods, the Founders, and how they just want them to fight for the Dominion. Bashir is clearly developing some sympathy for his captor, but O'Brien is far more cynical. The Doctor now wants to help them, with the logic that freeing the Jem'Hadar from their dependence on the Founders may help defeat the Dominion, which, works.
Yeah.
The Chief is somewhat less than sympathetic, thinking of them just as killers. Bashir pulls rank, ordering Miles to take some equipment from the runabout, but instead the Chief beams away from Araktaral, putting his transporter skills to good use. Bashir can find no source on the planet for Garanagar's lack of need for white and suggests that actually he never needed it. Araktaral tells us first of the escape of O'Brien and questions whether he wants to be cured if it means becoming weak like his superior has. Worf busts Quark and his curry friend mid-deal, but the bag with crystals transforms into Odo, which is nice.
Yeah.
Bollocking the Klingon for ruining his cunning plan to infiltrate the Markalian smuggling operation.
Yeah, Worf is a tit.
Why didn't you tell me, Worf asks. Because it's none of your business, was the answer.
Yeah, which it isn't. And also, if Worf having work security, should be aware that there might be such a thing as a fucking undercover operation, the twat.
Yes. Miles has gone into full guerrilla fighting mode, taking out a Jem'Hadar with a cunning trap. Branch to the face. Then he goes to rescue Bashir, but the Doctor refuses to go, so the Chief destroys his equipment. Yeah, okay. Then Garanagar turns up, escorts them back to the runabout, killing Araktaral in the process, and promising the rest of his troops a merciful end, with O'Brien finally understanding that actually this was a relatively noble dude. Cisco is working on his Sultana cock?
You made a little penis out of dried fruit. I think maybe this episode has to be called Sultana Cock.
It's been a long week, is all I can say. I'm sorry, I'll read that again.
I like it your way round.
I'm sure you do. Sultana Clock from Dramatis Personae. Remember that one where they all went nuts? Yeah.
It doesn't look the same though.
It's missing a few bits, I think. Yes,
yeah.
It's perhaps either he's taken them off to alter it, or actually they've lost some bits. But there we are. Worf comes in to confess how he's messed things up for Odo, who kindly didn't mention it in his report. Captain already knows, thanks to Station Scuttlebutt. Sisko gives a great speech about Deep Space Nine having shades of grey, the good kind, and it's something of a mission statement, really.
Starfleet officers often have trouble learning the unofficial rules of the station. There's no manual to study. You have to learn things as you go. A little different than life on a starship.
When I served aboard the Enterprise, I always knew who were my allies and who were my enemies.
Let's just say DS9 has more shades of gray. And Quark definitely is a shade of gray. He has his own set of rules, and he follows them diligently. Once you understand them, you understand Quark. I'd say that's true for everyone here.
Bashir tells O'Brien he won't bring him up on charges on the basis that it isn't his style, which is true enough. The Doctor makes it clear how disappointed he is in his friend, though, and they cancel their weekly darts match due to the discomfort of it all. It's nice that aren't always best buds. I mean, everybody falls out from time to time, and that's kind of cool. This episode was the result of putting together two different story pitches. One was the Jem'Hadar trying to free themselves from their white addiction, and the other was about Bashir and O'Brien backing two different factions on a world at war with one another. I'm rather glad that they sort of went with the Jem'Hadar option for the plot, because then that sort of obviously ties it into the running theme of the Dominion. And surprise, surprise, there's a spin-off novel that follows up the disagreement between Bashir and O'Brien. I bet you can't wait to read that one. Yeah.
Is there a spin-off novel about the workshop in O'Brien's bedroom?
There should be. The B-plot was written to show how different Worf was going to be on this show. He's no longer head of security and he's got some adjustment to do. So I think that's kind of fair enough. Although, yeah, it does make him out to be fairly stupid. Stupid. Both plots are okay. This is nothing special. It's slightly better than meh, I think, but not by much. Alexander Siddig puts in a very good performance, I think, in this one.
Yeah.
He sort of cheesed off with O'Brien, and you can see he makes his sympathies for the Jem'Hadar sort of comes naturally, as part of his performance. So it's rather good.
Yeah, and also because he is a doctor, he's supposed to save life where he can. Yeah. And initially, he's like, "I'm not going to do anything that's going to be against the Federation," showing that he's a Starfleet doctor. But then, he can see that this isn't against the Federation. It might, in fact, be in the Federation's best interest, and he's going to try and help these people because he's a doctor. So it all fits. There's nothing jarring about it. But equally, the Chief is a soldier. You know what he's been like with the Cardassians on Next Gen, and how he hasn't been able to reconcile himself to the Federation Cardassian peace treaty. So the idea, it would have been wrong for the Chief to have very quickly come round to Bashir's point of view. It fits with both characters that they take the stance that they do.
Yeah. Okay. So we both enjoyed it. It's not the best, but it's not bad. Not bad.
I enjoyed it more than the last one.
Okay. Well, let's find out what Sampo made of this one.
And Sampo said, "And here goes the Federation again, conducting a survey of something or other in the Gamma Quadrant."
Oh.
Yeah, and they're not even using the bloody Defiant. They're in a shitty little runaround.
Yes, very chancy.
It actually turns into an interesting moral dilemma, with Bashir and O'Brien being on totally opposite sides. And again, it's not clear-cut, neither is clearly wrong. We see Bashir pulling rank on O'Brien, which just shows he realises that neither of them can convince the other. So was O'Brien actually wrong when he disobeyed? I'd like to say yes, but on the other hand, he most likely saved both of their lives. Very strong shades of grey here. We also get a fascinating look at the Jem'Hadar, seeing them for more than just faceless antagonists for the first time. It's interesting that taking away Ketracel White actually allows the Jem'Hadar to start thinking more independently. Perhaps the drug does more than addicts them and keeps them alive. It might have some effect on the intellect as well.
Yes, it would seem to be the case, doesn't it? And the fact that his second doesn't no longer recognise his first as a Jem'Hadar anymore is, very telling, isn't it?
Well, it could be... Some of it might have the same impact as, say, testosterone on humans. It could be like, feeds the aggression and stuff, couldn't it? And Sampo continues, "The subplot with Odo and Worf is fine, although I don't see why Odo just didn't explain his plan to Worf."
Because he doesn't have to. I mean, that's Odo's character. I mean, and after all, Worf isn't part of his security team, so he's got no reason to.
Also, when Odo tried to connect with Worf in Way of the Warrior, Worf was like, "Ugh." So why should Odo be nice to him?
There is that too, yes.
And Sebo says, I guess Odo doesn't trust him yet.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Odo doesn't trust anybody, generally, so that's not...
Apart from possibly Kira.
Yeah. Well, even that's been damaged, of course.
Yes, but out of all of them, I think she's the one he trusts most. Also, the discussion Worf had with Sisko was a clear jab at Next Gen.
Yes.
Sisko explaining that on DS9 things are not as simple as on a starship.
As I say, mission statement
there.
Yeah.
So in the end, I really like this episode. Not as good as the 2 previous ones, but that's some tough competition. You'll hear from me again in 2 weeks.
Thank you, sir. Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, I liked it more than the last one, but not as much as Way of the Warrior, which is awesome.
Alrighty. And we have what Wayne has sent us on this one. Another good episode for very different reasons. This episode for me is a game changer. I've been disinterested in the Jem'Hadar so far. We've seen little of them, and what we have seen has shown to be an utterly insurmountable foe, much tougher than the Federation, and for that reason so far I've found them boring. Now, however, we see that despite their formidable power, they do have a weakness, that they can be vulnerable, and that makes them much more interesting to me. It was interesting also to see the difference of attitude between the do-gooder doctor and the embittered veteran of the Cardassian Wars. The resolution of the A-plot puts an interesting kink in Bashir and O'Brien's relationship too, which I hope isn't completely glossed over. Yeah, it's true. I also love the why can't Keiko be more like at the start too?
Yes!
The B-plot was okay, I guess, and served to show how different Deep Space Nine is from Enterprise. Even hitting us over the head with it at one point with Sisko's Shades of Grey speech. But I did find it uncharacteristically naive of Worf not to realise that Odo was after the bigger fish. Could be argued, yes. Anyway, good episode. That's free for free so far. Season 4 is off to a flying start. Take care all, and I'll talk to you again next time. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Excellent stuff.
And we've heard from Doreen, who says, when Julian pulls rank, it was heart-wrenching.
Yes.
I think the 2 end scenes neatly summed up the episode. I suppose it's no surprise, it is Star Trek after all. Sisko explains to Worf about why the lesson he's just learned in the B-plot is important. If everyone just sticks to their own codes of conduct, everything will work out in the end. In my experience, this is a great fictional idea, but in practice things work out a wee bit differently. And then after the extremely grey area that Julian and Miles have just been in as prisoners of the Jem'Hadar, I couldn't decide whose side to be on. Miles was totally acting on the soldier's creed that the first duty of a prisoner is to escape, but Julian is being a doctor and trying to relieve the suffering of addicts, and addicts who never had any choice in taking the Ketracel White in the first place. And the thing is, it sounds like the Jem'Hadar, once freed, would not fight for the Vorta and the Founders. Miles saying that at least at the moment where the Jem'Hadar are under the Changeling's control and who knows what will happen if they're not, seems a wee bit wrong. So, real-world example, should we just leave drug addicts under the control of the dealers, especially if they seem to be sincerely asking for help? Thanks for the podcast, Doreen.
Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you. I think it's a bit different if the drug addicts are holding you at gunpoint and saying, take me off the drugs.
Yes.
I think you've got to add that into the mix, you know, for it to be a real-world example, but...
It's also interesting there's that sort of difference for the Jem'Hadar between the Vorta, who they clearly don't actually like very much, and the Founders, who they've got this sort of inbuilt reverence for. Yeah. Even if Garanagar is sort of getting away from that a bit, there's still that sense that actually it's the Vorta they have the problems with. Yeah. So, did the Argyle Smurf like this one?
Hello everybody, Damien the Argyle Smurf here to talk to you about the Hippopotamus Oath, because it's a better title and we're going with it. Alright, anyway. Not a bad little episode, this. I was worried, as I remembered what I remembered about it. I thought, it's just going to be another typical Star Trek episode. You know, the Doctor has a dilemma, etc., etc., etc. Do we help the bad guys? Boring. Because we've had these before. There's enough in this one. The B-plot certainly keeps it afloat, I think. The B-plot is way better, and keeps the A-plot swimming. There's a lot in the A-plot. And I'll tell you what this actually reminds me of. I don't know if you've ever seen this, a fairly obscure film called Threads. It is dark as fuck. But basically, throughout the beginning part of that film, a nuclear war is about to begin, and you can see it gearing up, but only in the background, while everyday menial tasks are going on. Like, you'll be seeing, you know, a guy come home and talk about his girlfriend or something, and in the background on the TV is talk of talk of nuclear escalation. And there's that sort of thing going on here, where what's actually going on, especially on the station, is very, very menial. But then you've got that little scene about the Klingons stretching their gaze even wider, and it's just, yeah, actually, this could be quite nasty. And the actual Hippocratic Oath bit of the story is generic fare, but it's got the Jem'Hadar Vorta stuff in the background that's actually really important and needs paying attention to, and the Catcher So White is introduced, obviously. I mean, more introduced. Yeah, so if you can get past the base Star Trekness of this episode, it's actually not bad. It's got Talon in it as well, which is nice. Marshall Teague, although it got to the point where I actually couldn't tell which one Marshall Teague was. So that says something about his acting and the makeup job, which is quite impressive. But, yeah, so, the main story, again, the only thing I find about it is Hippocratic Oath a decent title? Because he's medical research versus actually physically doing medical work, as in saving a man's life, are two different things, I think. And, yeah. But that's that half of the story. When they first find the ship, there's a couple of odd moments. When they first find the thing, after the discussion about how much of a bitch Keiko is, which, are we surprised? I like what they've just written in, that just Keiko's just a twat now. That's that, unlucky. But, like, they discover the problem, they discover the missing ship, and then O'Brien says, strange place for a ship to set down, even if it was having engine trouble. What? Surely, setting down while having engine trouble isn't really a voluntary process, as they find out later on. So that's an odd line. And then they, quotes, crash land, end quotes, on the planet. Doesn't seem to be all that much of a crash. I get the idea of a guided descent, but the ship rocking backwards and forwards because it was going through tree branches and stuff was more violent than the impact with the ground. And I'm not sure that's entirely right. But then, they do prove that they have definitely got the hang of teasers now, as the Jem'Hadar appear and arrest them, which is good. Our spaceship porn moment is that this is a Danube-class runabout. I thought the Danube was one of the runabouts, but that's a different thing, I guess. And, yeah, so Bashir's shanghaied into doing medical research, which doesn't work out. The tension with O'Brien later in the episode feels a bit of a stretch, I guess. I don't really know. It didn't come off naturally. I'm not sure why it didn't come off naturally to me, but it didn't. But that went okay, and it was enjoyable enough tension to the ending, which it needed. And they fly away and everything will be alright in the end. Not now, but in the end. And isn't that lovely? Almost a reset button. On the other half of the thing, Worf wants Quark shut down. That's just a difficult sentence to say, actually. Worf wants Quark shut down because he's a bit of a criminal. And you can see where this one's going before it leaves the gate. But it's entertaining enough. There's enough backstories. I feel like, the entire B-plot could have been nixed if Sisko had handled the meeting between Worf and Odo a bit better, because I don't think he did very well there. I suppose it's to learn him a lesson. And then we've got the scene where the Klingons are, oh, maybe we got this the wrong way around, but the Klingons are expanding their borders on all fronts, and I cannot help but get the line from Londo Mollari in Babylon 5. Only an idiot would fight a war on 2 fronts. Only the heir to the throne of the Kingdom of Idiots would fight a war on 12 fronts. But that seems to be what the Klingons are doing, so we'll see what happens there. Odo decides not to arrest Worf for breaking entry. Worf completely blows the bust of the smuggling ring. Get on, you clever man. So, obviously, there's work to be done there as well. And then Sisko is explaining to Worf how life on the station is a bit different to a starship, and then points out that DS9 has shades of grey. So that's an episode we can look forward to, right? Anyway, on that note, I think it's time for me to go away. So have a lovely evening. Hopefully I'll continue doing this on a regular basis again, but again, I don't trust my life at the minute. But I love all that you do. I look forward to your look forward to your podcast every time it comes out. And have a lovely evening. Goodbye, peoples. Love and kisses. Mwah.
Mwah.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Thank you. Talon.
Yeah, thank you for putting us out of our misery. Yeah. It was Talon, as you've no doubt been screaming at the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think that Sisko could have handled Odo and Worf better, or do you think he deliberately left them to work their differences out?
He kind of said to just leave him to it. He said to Worf, "He's chief of security. You'll find he gets the job done." So no need to say anything. If Worf had been more trusting, then it wouldn't be an issue. But Worf appears to have become a very suspicious individual all of a sudden. So.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, Worf would have read all the Starfleet reports on Odo, and Starfleet doesn't like Odo. Possibly, it's a Starfleet bias. Yeah, and he, did Worf know Eddington? Meet him on Riser or something?
Oh, there's a point. Where's Eddington been? We've not seen him yet this season, have we? He wasn't.
Yeah, it would make more sense for Worf to tell Eddington if he didn't like Odo, and then Eddington would fuck it all up.
Strange case of Eddington. He has long holidays, I think. We can only assume.
But yeah, actually, when you think about the fact that Eddington should have been in the mix because of Worf's issues, it doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Sorry.
I do think it's a bit unfair to say this is Keiko being a pain. This is clearly Miles being an insensitive idiot. I don't think Keiko can be blamed for this one. I'd be bloody annoyed if I came back and found my conjugal bedroom had been turned into a bloody workshop.
Yeah, but if you'd fucked off for months to go and study fucking plants,
I still wouldn't expect the bedroom to have been turned into because it's a shared space after all.
But no, not if you've fucked off. She's fucked off.
Well, she's not fucked off for good, has she? That's just it.
No, she's fucked off down to Bajor to study plants. So, and he's doing his head in, missing her, so he's changed the space in order to cope. And of course he's fucking gone back to being a bachelor again, because she's fucking left him alone to fucking be a bachelor again.
Yeah. No, I don't have so much sympathy for him, I'm afraid.
I mean, I can understand that he should at the very least have tidied it away and not been using it as a workshop while she was there, if that's what he was doing.
Or maybe asked her first. That might have been an idea. Do you mind if I do? Yeah. Because presumably he's in regular contact with her, so...
He shouldn't have to ask her, she left.
Well,
but
yeah,
he could at least tell her and pre-warn her.
Exactly.
But he shouldn't have to ask her permission, because he's got to get his life to work without her, because she left.
Yeah, I know, but it would just be nice to say, our bedroom, do you mind if I turn it to... It still seems a bloody odd thing, sorry. A mini workshop in your bedroom, that's bizarre.
His first love is on Bajor, so he's coping with his second love.
Turn the lounge into a mini workshop, but not the bedroom of all things. Come on.
Yeah, but...
Oh, by the way, your wardrobe isn't there anymore. No, I turned that into a lathe.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So, yeah, that wouldn't work. But what I'm saying is, she should understand that he needs to rearrange that space.
Yeah, but their quarters maybe, but not the bedroom. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on.
Well, then he's got to start sleeping. If that would be me, I'd be sleeping somewhere else, and the bedroom wouldn't be used for anything then. If I can't change it.
Then when she comes back. Oh, anyway, let's move on.
Okay, sorry, but
the heir to the Kingdom of Idiots.
Oh,
yeah, that's
yes,
Garon for
the throne
you.
of the Kingdom of Idiots. Yeah,
yes.
That's about right.
And it is Danube class. Interesting, because you kind of got the impression it was a Cisco thing, naming them after rivers, but clearly that's kind of built into whoever built the first runabout and made it the Danube, because usually the class of ship is named after the first one.
Yeah.
So Galaxy class, there was a USS Galaxy, for instance. So yes, there would have been a USS Danube originally. Cool, thank you, sir. Drew and Tracy. Well, this will have been less of a tearjerker, I should think.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Oh, well, now that was a good one.
Yes.
I've not seen much of the Jem'Hadar so far, but now they're kind of coming into it.
Yep.
When we did see them, when we knew it was the Jem'Hadar that had beamed down onto the planet, went, oh!
Yeah, I know, when they all uncloaked, whatever
that was a bit scary, Mary, wasn't it?
Yep. I'm surprised that O'Brien sort of... I can understand him saying, oh, we shouldn't help him, and you don't want to free him from the Catcher White because it might unload them to all just
unleashing hell on the Federation, yeah.
But he must be able to realise that disrupting the Founder's grip on him... I mean, yes, I know it is a random action, so you don't know what's going to happen, but that would also be a tactical advantage to the Dominion if they're not in control of the Jem'Hadar anymore.
Fair dues, but you've got two polar opposites, I feel. Anyway, you've got a medical doctor who is like, okay, we have got the chance to rid these people of their addiction, which might make them better species, and they won't go on to want to create bloody hell across the universe. But then you've got O'Brien, who is ultimately he's a soldier, isn't he? So he's a defender. He sees them as the enemy, whereas Bashir is a doctor and he wants to help people.
He does once he realises. I mean, it's great stuff. I mean,
there was about 3 times in this episode where I just went, Bashir, I love you.
Yeah. When I wrote his name down, Garanaro, I don't know what his name was.
Whatever.
When you could just see he was being... The more he was with Bashir, he seemed to more humanised, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was,
when he saved the guy,
help us.
When the guy's kneecap got blown off, kind of thing, and that.
Well, he didn't want to kill him. If there was, if that was been the Borg, for example, they would have just
that's what Jem'Hadar are like, really.
Yeah, but they're not then, because they do show that there is a bit of a softer side.
And also, no, they don't know with Jim Haddad, I don't. But I also like the bit. With this guy though, this one Jim Haddad, I liked when.
It only takes one.
Well, this is Julian's thing, isn't it? Where he said about go and get O'Brien, and he said, there'll be no one to protect you, and he said, no, I will not run, and he just trusted him. He just instantly went, I will do my best, kind of thing.
Exactly.
I thought this was a very dark episode when they was all like had the jitters through the.
But it was like watching like Train Spotting, wasn't it? When they were all coming off like their heroin addiction. It's a very dark episode, and it shows to you how you can be controlled, because that's what it is. Like the Jim Haddad have like shoved this white shit into their soldiers for so long. They're all bloody addicted, but actually it shows. They might not be addicted.
Well, I do think, though, from a science point of view, I would have thought that Julian would have come quicker to the realisation that it was the guy that was never actually addicted to Carousel White. I mean, that'd be the most obvious thing you'd go for first.
Yeah, but
because if you had someone who wasn't addicted, and he said at the beginning, you're all genetically engineered for it, why wouldn't you just instantly go, well, there's probably that is going to be the reason, rather than something on this planet. Nothing on the planet would genetically alter someone to not be addicted to the drug.
To be fair, you have to kind of like give Julian a little bit of kudos. He's had like the Jim Haddad shoving phasers in his faces or whatever, and you've had O'Brien shoving phasers in his faces, going, if you do not get off this planet, I'm going to fucking kill you.
I guess so.
So a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I guess so.
He just wants to be the greater guy.
I think this was an excellent episode. I think this kind of thing is what Star Trek is all about, and some really big themes,
absolutely,
and some real kind of like emotive stuff, and real kind of like philosophy about it.
Well, it
what would they do?
Well, it showed the Federation is not about war; it's about helping people.
Well, it is from Julian's point of view, but not from Miles's, because he's a soldier.
Yeah, but Julian isn't like a doctor; he's a medical person, and I love him. Can I bring him home?
Let's cut to the chase. I really enjoyed this episode, and not seen it before. I thought it was excellent. This is everything that's great about Star Trek, this episode.
It's
totally what I would play to someone who didn't like Star Trek and thinks it's just a load of rubbish. I go, watch this episode. This is what it's about.
Okay, well, I wasn't staring out the window for like 20 minutes, so that's a good episode for me.
Yep.
So let's leave it there, because we're overrunning now. Alright then, thank you guys, see you later.
Bye.
Bye. You weren't staring out the window for 20 minutes, so that's a good episode.
Yeah, that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
The Bashir love continues.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't get a picture with him, actually, at Destination Star Trek. Or perhaps she would have just exploded in squee.
Or look like you do in yours.
Yes, perhaps she'd been as nervous as I was. Oh, boy. Not so sure about the white shit, though.
Yeah, that just makes me think of 1970s dog poop.
Exactly. That's what Ketracel White is. Yeah, it's only Garanagar that would be reluctant to kill the dude that got the knee injury.
Yeah.
The rest are like quite ready to hack his leg off and kill him, but yeah. Hey, including himself, he says, kill me and you have more white left, so. And it is very Star Trek, this story. I think that's very true. Unlike the previous episode that didn't feel like Star Trek in many ways. But both good episodes, just very different. Which, I like that. I like the fact that you just don't quite know what you're getting from week to week with Deep Space Nine. So, let's finish with Puri's comments on the episode.
Hello again, Puri here to talk about Hippocratic Oath. Of course I remember the episode title eventually. Again, this is one that I've not seen for a while. I think I first saw it at a convention. And at first thought, you're thinking, yay, it's Brian and Bashir out having some hijinks. That'll be worth seeing. Their sort of romance is building. And in fact, no, they're arguing here. And I think this was, again, I do wonder if the Deep Space Nine sort of script writers were beginning to set out their stall. In The Visitor, they're showing that they're not going to be tied down to an arc plot. In this one, now, for some reason, they've taken a runabout into the Gamma Quadrant, because apparently the Federation, and particularly the Deep Space Nine crew, really like kicking hornets' nests. Yet, not only do the Klingons start lurking at their borders now, being more aggressive, they decided to go and prod the Dominion. And Not just that, have they taken the Defiant through? No, we take a runabout, which promptly crashes onto a planet, which turns out to have a troop of Jem'Hadar. So just when we think we're all in trouble, we find out these are rogue Jem'Hadar. And this is an interesting point, that the Jem'Hadar might not be as controllable as previously thought. One of them, the leader of them, has somehow managed to naturally overcome his addiction to Ketracel White. And of course the plot is that he wants Bashir to help all the Jem'Hadar in his sort of squad to do the same. But obviously they're getting more and more out of control as they start going through their withdrawal, and O'Brien doesn't see why they should do it. To him this is almost aiding and abetting the enemy, O'Brien obviously being an old soldier. Meanwhile, of course, Bashir is the senior officer, but O'Brien does disagree with what he's doing, and there's not a particularly clear answer to which one's right here. On one hand, you can see Bashir's point of view that there's some people in pain and his Hippocratic oath is do no harm. So he would naturally want to go in and help them. But O'Brien's point of view is the Jem'Hadar are only are scary enough when they're under control of the Vorta, and would be even more scary had they not got that level of control. Essentially, what's to stop them becoming intergalactic raiders or basically a troop of sort of space pirates? Bearing in mind that the Jem'Hadar are naturally evolved to fight and to want to fight. We saw that in The Abandoned, I think it was, where we had the young Jem'Hadar. They're not going to suddenly become monks. They're not going to suddenly relax and chill out. They do seem to seek conquest and fighting. That seems to be what drives them. And basically freeing them from the one control thing that the Vorta have on them might not be particularly good for the Alpha Quadrant. So you can see O'Brien's view. On the other hand, Bashir's view could be that this could be the first steps to peace. I like it because it's not Star Trek. Again, a TNG plot would be, we are going to free your genetically engineered soldiers from your control method, and then you deal with them, and I doubt we'll unleash a horror onto the galaxy. That would probably be how Picard would deal with it, and I did like this being muddy. I also liked at the end, for all that they escape, and indeed, the problem isn't resolved in a nice way. It's at the end of it, basically, the one Jem'Hadar we've been sort of bonding with is going to go and basically kill his whole squad or be killed by them, whichever happens first. And Bashir and Julian aren't exactly on great terms. Now, we do hope they make up, and you do get a sign that they will do, but it's not sort of, that was an adventure. Darts anyone? They're both rather annoyed with each other, because Bashir's annoyed that O'Brien disobeyed his orders, and O'Brien's not entirely happy with what Bashir did. So overall, this was a really good character piece for the two of them, but also showing that Deep Space Nine can handle some more meaty moral issues and some proper solid grey areas, and we've seen that before, and it's just reinforcing this. I do think Deep Space Nine is building its setting out its stall in these first few episodes, and I'm really enjoying it. So, all it remains for me to say is, do keep up the good work. I'm enjoying the podcast, and always look forward to it. I would like to give a wee shout to Wayne Peters, just as a thank you for meeting up with me for a couple of drinks while I was down in Cardiff. Aside from my wife saying also thank you for not being a murderer, or at least not murdering me, but it's also in general, it's always nice to have company when I'm out travelling, and hopefully if I'm ever out in anyone else in the BOrgCast area, I'll be able to catch up with you and have a pint with you as well. So until then, thank you again for the podcast, and I'll hopefully be back in the next couple. Until then, bye for now.
Bye, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, I think our Wayne is mostly harmless.
I like this, the Federation have got this thing about kicking hornets' nests. Let's go to the Gamma Quadrant where we're not supposed to be in a crappy little ship.
Yes.
That'll work well.
Yeah, they'll leave us alone.
Yeah. And I like as well that it isn't done the way Picard or Next Gen would do it. It's not, we will free you from your addiction because that is morally the right thing, and then you can deal with all the consequences while we fuck off.
Yes. And it's a nicely dark ending, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least downbeat. Maybe dark is too strong a word, but certainly downbeat ending. That idea that Coronagar's gone and is kill or be killed, basically. Yeah.
But then, in a way, it's a bit like Klingons. The idea of an honourable death is better than a life in pain, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's kind of where they're coming from. And that fits as well with whatever the episode is called with Quark and Cisco, where that Jem'Hadar guard says, I wanted to meet a Klingon.
Yes, that was the Jem'Hadar, actually.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes. Cool. Thank you to everybody who's fed back. Always much appreciated.
Thank
Excellent
you.
stuff. next time, we shall be covering the episodes Indiscretion, where Naughty Two Cats past catches up with him.
Oh dear, what's he done now?
And Rejoined, which famously involves that kiss.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So there we are. Two very different episodes. So that's bOrgCast 9.3, recording on Wednesday the 2nd of November. We shall hopefully catch it, providing there's still a chance our internet cable may have been cut off between now and then, so there might be a bit of a delay, but we'll get there eventually, I'm sure, hopefully.
Yes. Yes.
Just follow the Twitter feed, you'll find out if something's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, you will do.
You'll hear the wails.
A bit like at the moment you can probably hear the cat purr.
Yes, quite possibly. Okay, we'll catch you next time. Cheery bye.
Bye.
A bone hippopotamus was standing one day on the banks of the cool Shalimar. He gazed at the bottom as it peacefully lay by the light of the evening star. Away on a hilltop sat combing her hair his fair hippopotami maid. The hippopotamus was no ignoramus and sang her this sweet serenade.
The bOrgCast is brought to you by the lovely people at GeekPlanetOnline.com.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended. The music at the beginning of this podcast was produced by the 86th Floor on YouTube and is used with their kind permission.
To contact us, you can use the forums at GeekPlanetOnline.com.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send email messages or MP3s to bOrgCast at GeekPlanetOnline.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. #bOrgCast.
Amorata adjusted her garter and lifted her voice in duet in Russian.
Graz, чудная грязь, лучше средства, как корная мазь. Так возьми свою даму,
Follow me, follow.
поведи ее в яму.
Down to the hollow.
И там мы окунемся в чудную грязь.
That will improve our cultural relations.
Shut it down!